as you heard the testimony today, does it look like she's going to get the green light from the committee?
I do think she probably will get through the committee. I'm not a political scientist. I'm an infectious disease physician, but it does sound like she has the votes to get through.
The fact that she doesn't have any objections to vaccines, do you see that changing anything with regards to the CDC, or do you think that we will still see the heavy hand of RFK Jr.?
I do think we will see the heavy hand of RFK Jr. And you can look at the exchanges that she had with some of the senators about taking down some of the disinformation that is on the CDC website relating to vaccines and autism, and she wouldn't commit to taking that down. So that already tells you his heavy hand is playing a role in her nomination, and she's not even CDC director yet. And I suspect he's already kind of coaching her on what she can and can't do.
Dr. Adalja, we're now more than a year into the second Trump administration. We are now more than a year into the administration of RFK Jr. Are you seeing now empirical evidence that his decisions have helped or hurt Americans, especially when we talk about the MAHA movement, for instance?
We have lots of objective evidence that his decisions and his presence has basically made things worse when it comes to infectious disease. We're in a banner year for measles right now. Over 2,500 cases have occurred. Most states have it. We have a large cyclospora outbreak that we can't really quite define. We have a CDC that is in shambles. We have an Ebola outbreak in the DRC, and we're pursuing these kind of strange policies to make quarantine centers in Kenya. We had armed guards for hantavirus home quarantine requests from the administration. So no, I don't think that anything RFK Jr. has touched has done well. I think we are much less prepared than we were prior to this administration when it comes to infectious disease outbreaks, even though our technology has advanced. This is not a technological problem. This is an implementation problem.
Dr. Adalja, then, with that as a backdrop, I'm now curious about your concerns in wake of what we went through with Ebola. I can remember when Ebola broke out. I remember the cruise ship off the coast of Washington State. I remember how quickly it spread. Are you concerned that we have not learned the lessons from the past?
I do think that the lessons from the past are something that are getting evaded. It's not that we don't know the learning. It has to be the case, though, that people think about infectious disease in the same lens as national security, and they are proactive, that they're using the best evidence to protect people from infectious disease. Increasingly, though, you see ideology and politics basically color the way people respond to infectious disease. So there is a Republican way of doing things, a Democrat way of doing things, and nobody's actually asking what is the right way to do things? What is the scientific way to do things? And that's, I think, the challenge that we're going to have, because COVID-19 left a major cascading negative impact on the public. And I think it's going to be increasingly harder and harder in this tribal environment to do infectious disease correctly. And I think the RFK Jr. nomination and his reign as HHS secretary is evidence of that.
Dr. Adalja, back to Dr. Schwartz. Can she restore then the trust that some say the CDC has lost under RFK Jr.'s administration?
It's going to be very, very difficult. I don't know how she could do that with RFK Jr. still as the head of HHS and nominally her superior. He's still the one that is controlling all of these HHS subordinate agencies, which includes the CDC. So I don't know how you can do that without sanctioning him as HHS secretary. And we saw what happened to her predecessor. When that predecessor tried to stand up for science, stand up for reality, she was fired.
What are your fellow doctors saying about this nomination? And do you expect to see the CDC doctors who fled the CDC now coming back? So
when you look at Dr. Schwartz on paper and her prior work, it's stellar. This is someone who could be a CDC director at any time. This is exactly who you'd want as a CDC director. But the environment she's going into, the structure she's going into, that's the concern that most of us have, that she's not going to be able to actually be the CDC director. She's going to be someone who is carrying water for RFK Jr. and giving RFK Jr. legitimacy that he has no right to claim. And that's the danger. I don't anticipate many people will come back to CDC that left. I think the whole atmosphere there has been poisoned, and RFK Jr. still has his hands on it.
Dr. Adalja, I have a final question for you because you brought up so many different threats that are out there. You talked about Ebola, you talked about cyclospora, hantavirus, we just got through that. Is there another outbreak on the horizon that people in your field are now concerned about that we don't know about?
There are always going to be outbreaks on the horizon. The one that I think is the most dangerous is bird flu. We're basically flying blind when it comes to bird flu. We know that there are dairy cattle farms in the United States, poultry farms getting infected, but how many humans are getting infected? How many humans are getting tested? Do we have any idea? Do we have situational awareness? I think the answer is no. And I think that's the biggest pandemic threat that we face is avian influenza. 1918 was an avian virus. So that's where there needs to be a lot more energy, a lot more transparency about what's going on at the farm level.
Dr. Amesh Adalja from Johns Hopkins. Doctor, as always, we thank you very much.
Thanks.